Welcome to A Matter of Perspective with Judge Derwin Webb. I am Judge Derwin Webb, coming to you from the Fraser History Museum. You know, sometimes I get it all with the amount of speakers that we have coming onto the show. Today, I'm honored to have three, not one, not two, but three lovely individuals that are here to talk a little bit about what they do and what they've done in the past. I'm honored to have Miss Christina Lee, Katie Bouchard, and Dr. Ashley Anderson. You three, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Well, this is a little unique because, like I said before, I usually just have one person on at a time. But this show's a little bit different. This is Women's History Month, and I wanted to have an opportunity to speak with three awesome women, three people who bring something to the table that go beyond what people normally see on their face. So I have three former contestants in scholarship pageants. Christina Lee is the reigning Miss Kentucky Earth. I have former Miss Kentucky, Miss Katie Bouchard, and former Miss Kentucky USA, Dr. Ashley Anderson. I have a question for all three of you. The thing that I've been involved with scholarship pageants for several years now. People don't know this, but before I became a judge, the running joke was because I was a pageant judge, that was the only judge I would ever be. But I have been involved with scholarship pageants for years. The question I want to ask first is, what made each of you decide to get involved in pageants? Let's go with Katie first.
So for me, I had a family friend who did a local county fair pageant, which I just thought was the coolest thing. So it kind of started off there. And then we had a neighbor who was actually on the Miss Kentucky board, and he had a daughter my age. So each summer we would get to go and watch Miss Kentucky. And, for a girl in elementary school, that was just the neatest thing ever. So it just started off seeing young women on stage and how powerful they were. And it just set that dream for me. And look where I am now.
Dr. Anderson, what about you?
I started competing for scholarship money. I was in college, actually 19, when I really got, I guess you could say, serious about competing. But I was really looking for opportunities to help fund my education. And that's when I was introduced to the Miss America program, and I got involved and never looked back.
Christina, what about you?
My love started in elementary school. Miss Kentucky USA actually came to our school, and she put the crown on one of the little girls' heads, and we were a little country town that nobody visited, so she was my idol. She became everything to me, and so I wanted to be her when I grew up.
So let's just be honest. When we talk about scholarship pageants, a lot of people just think about beauty pageants. So there are a lot of different stereotypes that go along with the issue or the thought of a scholarship pageant. What were some of the earliest perceptions before you really understood what a scholarship pageant was about? Christina, I'll start with you. What were some of your earliest perceptions? And then after you get finished with that and all the other two, we'll talk about some of the stereotypes that we talk about.
I mean, then was obviously she had to be beautiful, right? And that was what it was about. But the more you get into pageants, the more you realize that it's more about inner beauty and outer beauty. That's the important part. It's not just about outer beauty, because there's a lot of beautiful women out there that aren't so beautiful inside, and they aren't going to be a winner.
Dr. Anderson?
I think stereotypically it was just that it's all about what's on the outside. And that's definitely something that I learned quickly. It couldn't have been further from the truth. So I think, honestly, that's probably the biggest stereotype that I thought or had heard, even when I told people that I was competing, is that it's all about beauty. It was very superficial, had nothing to do with intellect, and that, it's just very superficial and archaic.
Just curious, is that one of the reasons why you started a little bit later than everyone else?
Well, no, I started later because growing up in the West End, there wasn't something that was top of mind. I think in that space, as a teenager, there were not a lot of title holders of color, so it wasn't something that I grew up thinking was for me or that I would be welcome in that arena. So it just never even crossed my mind until I was much older.
I'm going to come back to you in a second, but Katie, what about you? What were some of your earliest perceptions of pageants?
Yeah, I couldn't agree any more with them. Beauty, that's the first thing people think of. And at the time when I competed in the Miss America organization, you had to compete in swimsuit, and I'm not no size 0. So I was always scared, oh, I'm going to have to be this skinny girl to win the title. But it's the complete opposite of that.
Dr. Anderson, let me go back to you for a second, because one of the things you talked about was being a person of color, participating in these scholarship pageants. What were some of the issues that you faced as a person of color in competing in this venue?
Well, there's a couple. I mean, even like starting with what Katie mentioned and the size. Like, I've always been a curvy woman, and thinking that I needed to appear thinner and less curvy in order to be deemed fit and beautiful. The standard of beauty in America has not always been the picture of an African American woman or woman of color in general. So I think that was definitely a big thing. And then my talent was traditional West African dance. So that was definitely something that was unique and not seen very often, especially in Kentucky. So I think really trying to feel like you were a part of the program when no one else looks like you, or very few people looks like you. I think the times that I actually competed for Miss Kentucky, there was one other woman of color amongst the 30-something of us that actually competed, and so that does make it difficult to think you have a chance. But I think the biggest thing is wondering, will that world see you as beautiful because you're not what the norm is?
Let me ask you all a different question, but from the same perspective. When did you see you on that stage? I know for me, I'm obviously a judge, so the first time I saw a person that could possibly look like me was Thurgood Marshall. I wanted to be like him one day, and unfortunately, I was able to become a judge. But as you look at different areas in being in the scholarship pageant, when did you see yourself being that person that could actually win, not just compete, but actually win? Dr. Anderson, I'm with you right now, so go ahead.
Sure. Monica Hardin. She was Miss Kentucky in 2001. That was the year I graduated from high school. And I thought she was beautiful. She was like, we're very same skin color. And I was like, oh, well, okay, let me put that in my pocket.
Right.
So I think even meeting her, I had the opportunity to interview with her on a radio show that she was doing at the time, and seeing that she was, a normal, down-to-earth woman. She was so beautiful and so humble, but extremely talented. It definitely changed my perspective about the potential.
Christina, what about you? When did you see yourself?
I still ask myself that. I see beauty in so many women. My biggest factor when competing is competing against myself mainly. So, although I see beautiful people like Nia Sanchez and these ladies, for me, competing isn't seeing myself in somebody else. It's really just like challenging myself to be better than I was a day ago or whatever, if that makes sense.
Katie, what about you?
I definitely had idols. Our girl Heather French Henry, local.
Yes.
Tanya Mullins, who I looked up to because my talent was clogging. But it took me 3 years to win Miss Kentucky, and so. Looking back, I'm so thankful I did not win my first year, and I learned and grew so much over those 3 years, and getting to kind of experience with the 2 Miss Kentuckys that won before me, getting to see their years and what they went through. It just really taught me so much and pushed me so much more to achieve that dream.
Okay, I have a funny question, because like I said before, I've been a pageant judge in the past, and I know how the typical day goes. But anytime I would tell someone I'm going to judge a scholarship pageant, they would kind of make fun of me, or they would kind of say, oh, this is what you have to do throughout the day. It is nothing like what people would think. Can you guys kind of give the audience a view of what it would be like for your day going into the pageant itself? Let's start with you, Christina.
Oh gosh, well, I just came from a pageant, so this is fresh on my mind. I had to get up at 4 a.m. to meet my hair and makeup crew, Lisa Opie from Beauty by Lady Code, and we spent about 2 hours on hair and makeup, and then we had to go to rehearsal, and we rehearsed, and that takes a long time. We got ready for interview and all sorts of things. I mean, it is nonstop, and the most challenging thing is finding time to eat, believe it or not, and time to drink water. Yeah, so it's from 4 a.m. to midnight. It's just constant pageant.
Dr. Anderson, you want to add anything to that?
I would say the same, and I'll let Katie talk about the summer camp week that is Miss Kentucky. But I'll say from the director side right now, it's grueling.
I will make everyone know that you are the executive director of the Miss Kentucky pageant.
Yes, and Katie was my first Miss Kentucky. But yeah, from that side, it's grueling because we have, 60 some odd young women that are in our care for an entire week. And they have to be fed and cared for and make sure that they're safe and secure when random people walk up to them at events at 4th Street Live and those types of things. But it's one, like kind of what Christina was saying, is in really early mornings and very late nights, lots of rehearsal planning and ensuring, that we can put the fires out when they come. So I don't think people really understand how intense it'll be. I'll let Katie talk about competition week in our program, but it's a grind, and it is not for the faint at heart.
Great segue to you, Christina. I'm sorry, Katie, what about you? Tell us about that grind.
I think Miss Kentucky Week and Miss America Week, I think, was by far my favorite part of the competition, kind of behind the scenes stuff, because that's when the sisterhood is created. We're getting to meet sponsors. I had some of the best food in my life, especially at Miss America during Miss America Week. And so just getting to connect with locals and connect with the other sisters, it's just so much fun. But yes, a lot goes on behind the scenes and prepping for that stage time, lots of rehearsals, early wake-up calls, you name it. So much goes on behind the scenes.
Well, let me switch gears just a little bit, because I'm talking to 3 individuals that are very accomplished outside of just pageants. Obviously, I said Dr. Ashley Anderson, which means that you have your doctorate. Katie, I know that you are working on your master's right now. And Christine, I know you have your degree from University of Kentucky. So what are some of the things that you would like people to know about you outside of the pageant scene itself? Because I know that each of you had a platform. Rather than talk about your degrees, talk about your platforms. What are some of the things that you were working towards the pageants helped, but your passions that went into the scholarship itself? Katie, let's start with you.
Yeah, so my platform was called Being the Voice for Kentucky's Children. So I advocated for at-risk children in school social work, which is my job now. I am a family resource coordinator in the school systems, and that was what I was advocating for. And during my years Miss Kentucky, I got to speak at over 300 schools during that year. And the 2 schools that I actually serve now are 2 schools that I got to speak at. So life has come full circle, and I'm so thankful that I was able to advocate and use my voice, and now I'm able to serve our students and future generation within my career. Through the Miss America organization, they provide so much scholarship opportunities. And so I'm thankful for the Miss America organization, because I am working on my 2nd master's degree, and I'm completely debt-free thanks to the Miss America and Miss Kentucky organization. They've been able to pay for it all, and I truly appreciate it. So life has just come full circle, and I'm so thankful that I've been able to use my platform and make an impact.
Christine, I want to give you your due as well. I know that you're the state director of the Miss Kentucky Earth. What was your platform, and how are you using that with the things you do today?
Sure. Well, my reign was during COVID, so it was very hard, because usually you'd be in a hospital, you'd be in a school, things like that. But I use social media to promote sustainability and environmentalism. The Kentucky Earth Pageant's all about that. We teach people how to save the planet and conserve energy and things like that. So it was a little different this year, but we did what we could, and I think we accomplished a lot.
Dr. Anderson, what about your platform, and how is it helping you today?
Well, it's been a while since I competed, but my platform when I was competing was HIV and AIDS awareness, which is something as a women's health nurse practitioner was very dear to my heart. Still is, of course. So I did a lot of work, both here in Kentucky and in Ohio, working to spread awareness about HIV prevention and all of that type of stuff. Now, I would say that my platform has changed into kind of all things female empowerment, but which is why, of course, I think I agreed to step into the role at Miss Kentucky. And what Katie just said about being debt-free and being able to pursue her dreams at no cost is my why. Like, that is why I'm here.
I'm going to ask all three of the same question. How difficult has it been for you to overcome some of the stereotypes that go along with pageants or just being a beautiful woman? Because I like to say you can't judge a book by its cover. So there may be a perception of what a pageant queen is. So how did you overcome that perception? I know, Dr. Anderson, you're a doctor, obviously. So how did you overcome that perception?
I mean, without being facetious or anything, I think that everyone on here could just say, check my resume. But like, you know,
I know you run for office also, so people don't know some of these things. That's why I want to give you an opportunity to speak about it.
Yeah, and I think that when you like have those conversations, like what Katie said is like, I compete in this program in order to pay for my education so that I don't have to be in debt and, you know, take out all these crazy student loans. I think that actually starts the educating process, I would say. I know for myself, I always say that every woman should do a pageant, at least one in her life, because of all the things it teaches you about yourself. Because if you look at a woman who's done a pageant and competed for any amount of time, whether she's won a crown or not, what you're going to see is a woman that's self-assured, that's able to stand, you know, on her own and be able to articulate the things that she cares about and the things that she's passionate about, and understands how to use a position of influence to affect change in her community. She's going to be fit and well, you know, taken care of. She's going to know how to dress to fit her body. She's going to be a force in the workforce, whether it's personal business or whatever. So I think just watching that person and being able to say, you know, yeah, I did pageants and it taught me all of these things. For me, that's been the way to overcome that, because those are lessons that are really hard to find in real life. Like, I will tell you, I have never interviewed for anything in my life, like not even when I ran for office, that was more difficult than me competing in a pageant interview, like ever. I mean, Derwin, obviously people like you are interviewing us, so honestly.
Can we just steal her answer? Can we just?
I was going to say, does anyone else want to say something? Well, Katie, what about you?
Well, Ashley said it all. I mean, she is the woman, that's for sure. But for me, it was trying to get out of those mind games. You kind of make your own stereotypes because there were girls that were going to law school or trying to be a doctor, and here I am wanting to be a social worker. And, you know, on some people's scale, that is very low and not appreciated, but that was my passion and that was my calling. And so trying to get out of those own mind games, like knowing that you're capable of this job, was something that I had to overcome. And that's the best part about this organization, is it welcomes everyone, no matter your background, your ethnicity, your future career path. Pageants are for everyone, and that's why every woman should be a part of it, because you are able to use your voice and express your passions.
I will say this, Katie, I cannot do my job as a judge without people like you as social workers, so you're a vital part of the things that I do, so don't ever discount that, because judges can't do what we do, and our court system cannot work without good social workers. So I just wanted to say that, so you knew that from me.
When I wanted to go into social work, so many people tried to talk me out of it, and I'm glad that I stuck with my gut, and that's what I'm doing today. So thank you.
Christina, what about you?
Oh gosh, well, what was the question?
Basically, the question was, how do you overcome those stereotypes?
I'm kidding. I mean, basically, you just have to be yourself. You have to everybody has haters. If you're in the public eye, people are going to have an opinion, and you can either listen to their opinion. You know, you can only be yourself, And then the people that need it, to be inspired by it, then you reach those people. I mean, bottom line.
Okay, switching gears just a little bit. A couple of you are moms. Would you have your children, as they get older, participate in these pageants? Christina, what about you?
I'm glad you said that, when they're older. For my daughter, she's 8, and I've asked her, do you want to be in a pageant? Clearly, it's part of our life. And she says no. And I'm like, okay, there's no pressure. We treat it like a sport, like a hobby. But like Ashley said before, I mean, the rewards and the opportunities and the open doors it has for women, I would love for her to do a pageant, but it's just like anything. You've got to support what she wants to do and not force it, because if you force somebody to do something like a pageant, it can be pretty detrimental to your self-worth and things like that.
Dr. Anderson?
Well, I have 2 boys, and that's the end of our road. But I always said that if I had a daughter, and I agree, like with what Christina said, if she wanted to do it, and if she was at the age where she understood that her not winning did not mean that she wasn't beautiful and capable and amazing, then I would absolutely let her do it. But if there was any inkling that she equated her self-worth to the crown going on her head, it would be an absolute no. Absolutely.
Okay, I don't want to leave you out of here just because you haven't had a child yet. Should you decide to have a daughter, should you decide to have a child and that child is a daughter and she wants to participate, would you encourage that?
I agree with them. And for the longest time, I'm like, I would never put my child in a pageant until I became a part of the Miss America organization, and they have the Outstanding Teen program, and that starts at age 13, I believe. And just to be able to earn scholarship money that young, and to be able to start using your voice that young, and sharing your platform and your talents, it's just an awesome opportunity. So absolutely, if I had a daughter, not anytime soon, but I would definitely let her go for it.
I'm going to stay with you. What is the biggest lesson you learned from being in these pageants?
The support system, the friendships, the opportunities. I wish I could go back and do my year all over again, because it was just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, getting to travel the state, meet people that I would have never gotten to just meet as Katie, and the opportunities and the doors that it's opened for me. I'm just blessed to have been a former Miss Kentucky, and thankful to be a part of the organization, and just very thankful.
Dr. Anderson?
You said the lesson,
Yeah, what's the biggest lesson you learned from, that you took away from being in pageants?
I think it's really just being comfortable in your own skin, because it's so easy in our world in general, in pageants or in any industry that people surmise to be related to beauty, to compare yourself and then tear yourself apart based upon what you are not versus celebrating what you are. So I think the greatest lesson that I learned was to embrace Ashley, whether that's body type or skin or hair or talent or, voice, whatever that thing is, and walk in that proudly.
Christina, what about you?
More of what Ashley said, being comfortable in your own skin, but knowing that I can do scary things. I mean, believe it or not, this interview is like, you think that I'd be used to being on stage and in the spotlight, but it's still nerve-wracking for me to be on an interview or talking or be on stage. That is the scariest feeling of my life. But it's also the most exciting. It opens doors. So just knowing that I can do scary things, that's what kind of propels me forward in the pageant world.
As we go into this age of, what's the word I'm looking for? New enlightenment. We see the first African-American female vice president. Well, actually, first female vice president. We see more women coming into power in different areas throughout the community, throughout the world. Where do you see pageants going in the future? Do you see a growth in it? Do you see people becoming less involved? Just throwing out, where do you think pageants will go in the future? Christina, since I'm with you, go. What are your thoughts?
Sure. Well, pageantry has to become the influencer of the future. We are all about influencers, and the thing that today's influencers lack is that purpose, that community service aspect. And we are like the ultimate influencer. We get in front of people, we help people, we have a heart for our communities, and we have to go in that direction, becoming influencers of the future. And I hope that pageantry stays, because it's easy to look at a pageantry and just see a girl walking on stage in a swimsuit. We have to be open to all the good things that pageant girls bring to our communities, and kind of just amplify that.
Dr. Anderson, what about you? What are your thoughts?
I definitely think that there will always be a space for pageantry because, like I mentioned before, it's about skill building. It truly is the fastest way to learn all of those skills that we've talked about today. I mean, you do one pageant, you're going to interview, you're going to speak on stage, you're going to have to do a talent maybe, you're going to have to exhibit poise, and you're going to have, it's a crash course in learning how to best project yourself to the world. And I think that there's always a space for that for young women, especially with the opportunities that are open and the glass ceilings that are being shattered. I think there is no better woman for these types of things than a pageant girl.
What about you, Katie?
I completely agree. Pageants have gone up and down, and I hope they continue to stay. And I keep going back to the Miss America organization. They are continuing to grow and change and adapt to society, and they are empowering women. And I've gone blank, but I keep thinking about the changes that they've gone through, and even in my year at the state pageant, I competed in swimsuit, and then at Miss America, I did not. And yes, there were a lot of people that were upset with these changes, but a lot of these changes were necessary, and we're all changing with time. So I just hope that pageants continue and girls have the opportunity to compete and make an impact.
Okay, final question for each one of you. I talked about what the future of pageants are in the future. What about your future, Katie? What are you hoping to do in the future?
Well, I hope to continue my career making an impact in our future generation. My passion is working with children. Hopefully soon I'll be finishing up my degree in mental health counseling. So starting that career path, I just have a calling for working with children. So I just see somewhere down my future path continuing that work.
Christina, what about you?
Well, as you know, I took on the director position this year. So my future goals are to recruit from every county in Kentucky, trying to get the most well-rounded girls to compete on stage and showing them that, yes, we have the opportunity for them to thrive and to be the best versions of themselves. So that is my future in pageantry.
Dr. Anderson, what's your future? I'll give you the last word.
That's pressure.
Well, actually, I'll get the last word, but from our panel. How about that?
Okay, thanks. I think for pageantry, my goal for the Miss America program, well, the Miss Kentucky program for sure in the America system, is to continue to grow it. I think this year we're going to have close to 80 some odd girls competing, which is amazing for our growth over the last 2 years. And my goal there is to continue increasing the amount of scholarships that we're awarding every year. We're talking over $100,000 that we're giving in cash scholarships and almost $2 million in in-kind scholarships. So my goal is to continue to do that so girls all across Kentucky have the opportunity to afford college education, because it's obviously getting more expensive every year. And then personally, I think just continuing to empower and pour into women, whether it's with natural health care, whether it's with Miss Kentucky program, or with my writing, that is my big goal, is to be a best-selling author. So there is that.
Well, with that being said, thank you very much. I'd like to thank and appreciate all three of you for coming on to the show. And I would like to remind you that I mentioned at the very beginning that I was a former pageant judge, which means that I'm available to continue to do that role because I actually have the title as judge to begin with. So just throwing that out as a selfish plug for myself. But as I always end the show, in thanking our participants, I wanted to remind everyone that listens to the show, doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter what I say, at the end of the day, it's always a matter of perspective. Thanks for joining us today.